Texas is the biggest battleground state.
And in 2020,
We have the opportunity
to turn our state blue.
up and down the ballot.
We have the opportunity to expand access to affordable health care, finance our public schools, strengthen our economy, and take meaningful action on gun violence. There's so much more in the United States Senate.
We have the opportunity to pave the way towards a more sustainable future at the Texas Railroad Commission.
we have the opportunity
To elect judges
and the justices
who will restore fairness, equality, and balance
in our courts
We have the opportunity
to shape the political future of Texas.
and repair the broken systems
that disenfranchise working families in our great state.
we have the opportunity to ensure that Texans in positions of power,
embrace empathy.
Open minds
And swing open the doors of possibility.
by working together,
and uniting behind our shared vision of a more inclusive world.
we will win back our state.
We will win because we have to.
We have to put an end to the hate, the lack of access, and the suffering.
We have to deliver on the fair shot that every
español está disponible. Para interpretación, haga clic en el icono del globo terrestre en la parte inferior de la pantalla.
Who are we? We are the ones who step up for each other. I've got your back. You've got mine. Kindness, humility, empathy. It's not just talk. It's who we are. It's who we always have been. And no one can take that from us. The movement to bring it back, it started here. And here. And here. In school gymnasiums, community centers, the living room down the block. You'll be where? Okay, we'll be there. Who are we? We're the movement that will beat Donald Trump. Welcome. We're going to have to sweat for it. We're going to have to sacrifice and fight. We're going to have to lead. Everyone is going to have to lead with kindness, humility, empathy, and not just talk, but action. Action today, action tomorrow. Action until we win. And we will win if we do this together. It's who we are. It's who we always have been. Now let's show them.
Thank you for joining this Biden.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Rebecca Acuña, your Texas State Director for Biden-Harris 2020. The fact that I'm speaking to you tonight as your Texas State Director is a testament to your work, to your organizing throughout the years. You have organized, you have registered your neighbors, you have spoken to your family. And come election night, Texas, we can deliver 38 electoral votes for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We know that we've got a lot of new believers, a lot of you talking to your neighbors, a lot of you making calls for us. But we have a guest who has always believed in us. And he has not only spoken about it, but he has acted on it. In 2018, we saw him come so close to taking that Senate seat, but he energized hundreds of thousands of Texans. And because of that energy and the encouragement of other candidates to run, we were able to flip 2 congressional seats and 12 state House seats. So, Beto, thank you for always believing in Texas, for always believing in us, and welcome.
Rebecca, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this and for being our leader, being the leader of the state of Texas in the most important election, in the most important battleground state, at the most important moment in the country's history, at least for as long as we have been alive. So no pressure, Rebecca, but we are counting on you, but we are behind you and we are with you. And I see some of the team that you've assembled here this evening, Representative Anchia, Representative Sweener, Representative Bowers. Those are 3 that I saw just at the outset. I know we'll be joined by more in a little bit, but what they are doing in their districts, the voters that they are registering, the voters that they are talking to, the electorate that they are expanding, we're going to flip the idea of coattails on its head. And I think what you're going to see, Rebecca, and what you're going to help lead is this enlargement of the electorate, more than 1.5 million since the 2016 election, which is about double the number that we register in a 4-year period. All of these campaigns contacting all of these newly registered voters who aren't counted in any traditional poll. We're going to surprise a hell of a lot of people on election night. And let me say this to the doubters in the room, or that doubting part of your mind. You know, we've had our hearts broken by Texas before. And so some part of us is holding back from believing that this is truly the year that it's possible. But let me tell you this, In 2018, on the eve of the election against Ted Cruz, most polls had us down 7, 8, 9 points. We ended up losing, but only by 2.5 points. So we outperformed the polls by 5, 6 points on average. Same thing happened to Hillary Clinton in 2016. She was not supposed to lose by only single digits, but she had the best performance of a Democratic nominee in more than 2 decades. Joe Biden right now is statistically tied with Donald Trump, and he has been for the last 6 weeks. This is not an anomaly. This isn't an accident in the polling science. This is reflective of what we're seeing and hearing across the state of Texas. And if in this year, as has happened in past years, they're undercounting Democratic voters in the most voter suppressed and voter intimidated state in the union, where it is particularly hard to count those who have for so long been counted out, then I think the reality is Joe Biden is ahead right now. And this is our race to lose. And if we want to help the country ensure that this election is decided on the 3rd of November and not the 1st of December or the 10th of January or in the Supreme Court, then Texas and all the voters that we're talking to, all those who we've registered, all need to turn out starting on October 13th, the first day of early voting, all the way through November 3rd. And I am confident that the performance we're going to see tonight from our candidate, I'm confident because of the leadership of Rebecca Acuna and the extraordinary team she's assembled. I'm confident because of all these state house reps and state house candidates down ballot that Texas is going to make it happen. And so I just wanted to come here tonight and congratulate you, Rebecca, on everything that you and your team are doing. Wish you the best of luck in the 35 days left to us to decide the outcome of this race, and tell you that we are with you every step of the way. So thank you for what you're doing and for bringing all of us in together to do it with you.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us. And he is still working to flip Texas every single day, including going to another event for House Democrats shortly after this. Thank you, Beto.
Adios.
Hey, so I don't know about you all, but I'm really excited to watch this debate tonight and finally get to see a real leader who tells us the truth, who's responsible, and who's got a plan. We've got a great panel of state representatives today. We're going to talk to us about what we can expect to see. The discussion will be moderated by State Representative Rafael Anchia, the chair of the International Trade Committee, the Mexican American Legislative Caucus, and my state representative. We'll also hear from Representative Retta Bowers from Rowlett, who has been an educator and a community volunteer her whole life and was one of those candidates who flipped a red to blue seat in 2018. Joining Retta and Representative Anchia is Aaron Sweener, another candidate from Central Texas who flipped a seat, once said impossible to flip, and also a 3-time Jeopardy champion, Representative Sweener. So Representative Anchia, I'll let you kick off this discussion.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thanking you for putting together this program and inviting the three of us to participate. I'm really excited about being able to sit alongside two of my star colleagues from the Texas legislature, Representative Sweener and Representative Retta Bowers. You know, the stakes could not be higher, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, America is in crisis. There's a public health crisis where 200,000 fellow Americans are now dead and another 5 million are sick. There's an economic crisis. And there's also a moral crisis, a crisis of leadership in our country. So with me today to sort of tee up this opportunity for Joe Biden to speak directly to the American people are two of my colleagues that really inspire me because both of them flipped Republican seats to Democratic seats and who have worked tirelessly during the past 2 years in organizing their communities. These are two of the members who are closest to the constituents that they represent, and they're going to be sharing with us some of the reactions that we have. And I'm first going to kick it over to Representative Bowers. Retta, you and I are both in Dallas County, even though we're opposite ends. There are many people in our community who are people of deep faith, as are you. And I know you personally and know that that is the sort of guiding principle for you. You know, Vice President Biden was criticized for a photograph which was taken of him praying. And it was used by Trump to suggest a sign of weakness. As you're listening to the debate tonight, we know that Vice President Biden is also a person of deep personal faith. What are you hoping to see from the Vice President this evening?
Well, thank you for that, Rafael and Chia, Representative, and it's an honor always to be on a panel with you. But I think what I'm hoping to hear from our Vice President, and hopefully soon to be President, is that he will give the nation hope. I hope that he will keep his cool, he will draw truly on his faith, and make sure that the people know that he is setting out to save the soul of this nation. And that I believe truly you cannot lead properly without having a servant's heart, and that you certainly, with that servant's heart, draw on your faith. I hope that he will let Americans know that a vote for him will mean a vote for a better future and a brighter future looking forward.
Thanks, Representative Bowers. Representative Zwiener, every 4 years we say, hey, folks, this is the most important election in history. But this time it's really true. Our entire democracy may be on the line. What are you hearing from your constituents? Because we've got millions of lives and livelihoods that are actually on the ballot this November. This is not some sort of theoretical political science exercise. This is a time when we really need leadership and need Joe Biden. What are people telling you as you engage with members of your community?
Yeah, I don't want to say that the stakes couldn't be higher, because then we're going to get another curveball and the stakes will get higher again. But I'm feeling that sense of gravity from my constituents. I was speaking to voters the other night and talked to a woman who told me her husband in his 40s just got registered to vote for the first time because of how important this election is. So I think we know this matters, and what my constituents really want to hear from Joe Biden is his plan to address COVID-19. So many families have had to make really hard choices in the face of this pandemic, and that's something I know personally. At the beginning of this, my 92-year-old grandmother was in a rehab facility, and the next option was to send her to a nursing home. And instead, my household, my family took her in so that we could still see her and interact with her as she was sick and help her recover. Luckily, she's doing a lot better now, but I know my family's not alone in having to make that hard decision about how to protect an aging relative, what to do if your family are essential workers, what to do if your job goes away. As a lot of folks have said, we're all in different boats through this pandemic, but we're riding the same storm. And that storm has cost 200,000 American lives. That storm has cost almost 16,000 Texas lives. And we're at 30 million unemployed nationwide. And that's the direct result of our president being unprepared. It's the direct result of President Trump lying to Americans about the seriousness of this pandemic. So I think what Texans want to hear are Joe Biden's plans to help fight COVID-19 so that we can get back on track with rebuilding the economy and protecting American lives.
And not just building back, but building back better, right?
Yes.
That is the suite of plans that he's offering up to the American people, and he's going to have an opportunity to speak directly to them tonight. It's in addition to what's happening in the debate tonight, there's a broader context, obviously, and that is what we are seeing in Texas. We have Texans from all over the state weighing in on the chat this evening. We already know that in 2016, Texas was a bigger battleground state than Ohio, right? The margin, as Beto said earlier, was tighter. Both of you were part, as Rebecca said, of the 12-seat gain in the Texas legislature, and now we're poised to really change the course of the legislature during the next session by potentially flipping the entire House. Representative Zwiener, back to you. Talk a little bit about what's at stake electorally here in Texas.
Yeah, we flipped 12 seats in the Texas legislature in 2018, and the most ambitious estimates beforehand were 8. So control of the Texas House is absolutely up for grabs. Every single seat is worth fighting for. I should know I was an election night surprise in 2018. And what's on the table is fair redistricting, which will determine the face of power for the next decade. If we have mixed control of the Texas government, we have a shot at fair districts. And what's on the table is access to health care for at least 1.5 million Texans who would be eligible for Medicaid expansion if we took the courageous step to do that here in Texas. It's something that 38 other states have already done, and it's something that would bring $10 billion of federal dollars into Texas, into our healthcare system, and drive down healthcare costs for everyone. That's just two of the things that we can make a big difference in by flipping control of the Texas House.
So we've, Representative Bowers, you're an educator, a community leader. Many families are struggling today with decisions about childcare, decisions about how they're going to educate their kids. There's been precious little guidance from the federal government or even a plan on reopening. You'll recall that months ago when we all knew it wasn't safe, you had the president saying, you must go back to school. And then governors across the state who are sort of beholden to the president started making those plans. Thankfully, leaders like you helped put a stop to that because you were talking to parents in your communities. Tell us what they were telling you and what you hope to hear in terms of leadership from Vice President Biden today in the absence of any sound, medically driven leadership from the White House.
Yes, well, thank you, Representative Anchia. And I have been talking to parents and educators in the community as late as tonight, right before hopping on with you all. But I hope that we will hear more from Vice President Biden on ways to do it safely. I think that our educators today and parents are feeling that they're doing the very best they can, but there are challenges there. Teachers that I've spoken to feel like veteran teachers feel like they're at year one. They're back at square one, trying to figure out how to keep students engaged virtually and at the same time keep those face-to-face engaged. I think they feel that face-to-face we're actually doing better. But some of the other strains, as you said, on families are those that family members are, if they're not working outside the household, they're in the household having to work side by side as they're pretty much a teacher's assistant. They're trying to hold down their jobs and teach their students along with educators every day. So that families are struggling, and I hope that Vice President Biden will be able to give Texans hope for a better tomorrow, as you said, to build back better.
Thank you, Representative. You know, as the parent of 2 public school kids, I'm grateful that they're actually pretty self-sufficient because they're teenagers. I can't do their math homework as is, so I kind of feel a little powerless. And I imagine that there are parents on this call who feel the same way. I'm usually helpful when they bring me homework assignments that have words in sequence, like sentences. That I can still do. But when they're math and science formulas, it's very, very difficult. I'm so grateful to all the teachers that are soldiering on during the pandemic and really providing innovative solutions of transmitting that content to our kids. It really has been something to behold. Representative Zwiener, you're very close to the business community in the district you represent, especially small business people that are kind of the backbone of our economy. What do you think they're looking for in leadership from Vice President Biden? We didn't have to be in this situation where we're still having lockdowns in some parts of the United States. If we had responded, listened to the scientists and responded effectively like virtually every other country that is in the developed world did, then we might be reopened by now. Talk to us about what you're hearing from your businesses.
Yeah, I think our small businesses are looking for a plan forward. The shutdown was necessary, it was painful, but the purpose of that was to buy time to put together a concrete plan to move forward. And our federal government and our state government fell short on the plan, fell short at getting us testing and best practices. So I think our small businesses are looking for that plan. I think they are looking for resources to help them stay afloat while that plan is developed and implemented. And I think they're looking for resources to help them be successful. I think they're looking to know what the best practices are to implement in their community, and I think they're looking for support for their employees as they struggle in this time where our economy is not operating on all cylinders. I think that's something I'm excited to hear Joe Biden talk about, because we know everybody needs help and needs that lifeline while we get COVID-19 under control.
And you raise a really good point, Representative Wiener, because it's not only sort of stabilizing the economy, which has a intolerably high number of unemployed right now, but then it's recovery, right? You stabilize and then you recover. Hopefully in 2021 under a Biden administration, we will have a plan where the incumbent has provided very little leadership. In fact, there's been an absence of leadership that's been counterproductive to both the stabilization of the economy and the recovery. So back to Representative Bowers. Representative, anything else that you're looking for in this debate? What are you hoping to hear most? Is it healthcare, COVID response, economic recovery, education, or even taxes? We just learned yesterday that that President Trump is indebted to the tune of about $1 billion to entities that we don't know about, and at the same time has only paid $750 in taxes, despite being quote unquote billionaire.
Absolutely. I had a conversation with my mom, and she was very upset about that. Very, very upset. And I'm sure so many other people were as well at hearing that. But some of the things, one thing I'm really hoping to hear from our Vice President is his story about how early on in his political career, how he went back and forth daily so he could be home with his parents, with his children. I mean, his family had suffered a real tragedy. And I told him personally, I think that story resonates not only with me, but with a lot of people, that he would be such a servant that could take the time to go back and forth every day to be there for his children and serve this country in the way that he did. I just hope that he will show, he will be able to keep his cool, and he will be able to show Texans and people across this country the true heart of a servant, and that they will put their trust in him to lead us into a better place.
For the longest time, he was known as the lowest, or the poorest in quotes member of the Senate in a club that was full of millionaires. He really lived off of his salary and commuted every day from Delaware to the Senate so he could be with his kids and try to be a dad. He's experienced some tragedy in his life. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people who are just tuning into this election cycle and haven't followed politics closely, Representative Wiener, don't know about the tragedies he's had in his life, how he's overcome them, how he's dealt with them, and what a family man Vice President Biden is. Tell us a little bit about that story that you're aware of.
Yeah, President or Vice President Biden, again, ahead of myself with so hope here, has known loss in his life. He lost his son to I know the technical name, a glioblastoma tumor. I know that name because I lost my aunt to the same type of tumor in 2016. And I think, that loss really plays into one of his biggest strengths as a leader, which is compassion for the American people. And we have all seen the devastating impacts of what it means to have a president who, as far as I can tell, completely lacks compassion and doesn't care about the loss we're facing in this country. Again, we've lost 200,000 Americans to COVID-19, and we still have a president who is minimizing its impact on our communities. So I am eager to have a leader that has known loss, and a leader who feels the pain of the American people and will be here to fight for us on a day-to-day, and also a leader who we can be proud of again. I think that's something we're really missing as a community, a leader that we can have some faith in, a leader we can trust, and a leader that can make us proud to be Americans.
And that's something that we're all feeling now. I'm getting calls from people all over the world, and my family they're wondering what happened to the United States that as Reagan used to say, that shining city on a hill, right? That made people like my parents want to come here and create a life here and access that American dream as immigrants. Trump, on the other hand, has lowered our station in the world. We are weaker now from a foreign policy perspective, from an economic perspective, and from a moral authority perspective in the world because of his foreign and domestic policy and the way he treats some of our partners and neighbors, including Mexico, our number one trading partner. He's been less than diplomatic in terms of our top bilateral relationships, both north and south in the North American continent. Representative Bowers, your mom is one of your biggest supporters. And I've had the chance to see her on the campaign trail, but she is a tough to persuade voter, right? She just doesn't support anybody, and in many cases finds it very hard to support Democrats. Talk a little bit about her and tell that story, because I think it underscores the importance of this not being about Democrats winning an election. This is about Democrats, Republicans, and independents pulling together to reclaim the soul of this country. So tell us a little bit about your family and how this plays out at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I mean, her heart is probably delighted if she's watching that you brought her up again. But she is truly a Republican, but my greatest supporter. And I would say that one thing that she says, she's Republican, but she does not support the president. She cannot. And so you have to know there's some very interesting conversations happening around our family gatherings if we have them via Zoom as we're doing now. But she just cannot support the president. She remains Republican, but I think, as you said, Representative Anchia, this is not about it is truly about saving the soul of this nation and our state. And we have to get around the fact of red or blue. And we need to be, as Democrats, Republicans that see that this country needs change, and independents, we need to all come together. And I think that's what happened in our household. You know, we began to look at people for who they really are. And when we look at what we have right now, we know we need change. And I'm so glad to say that I know she'll be supporting Vice President Biden in this upcoming election.
Representative Zwiener, you've been really effective at holding state government accountable about reporting numbers. Now, at the federal level, we have seen an unprecedented meddling in CDC reporting, CDC protocols by the White House. In fact, they pulled from the CDC a lot of the competencies of what should be a straightforward, scientifically based, medically based guidance. And they sought to essentially bury some of that guidance and those numbers. The minute that there was a disagreement between science and politics, politics won out. We've had some challenges here in the state of Texas about reporting numbers, and you've been all over it and trying to hold the executive branch in this state accountable. You know, what is it, 19,000 Texans that have already passed away as a result of COVID, if the numbers are accurate and not underreported as we suspect they might be. Talk about the failures, and you alluded to them earlier, between the federal and state government that really have cost lives.
There's been so many failures on providing the public with good information, and the good information is especially critical because it's how Texans and Americans make decisions about what risks they're going to take in their day-to-day lives. One of the big failures that is pretty clearly political at the federal level is, we've had a new form of testing come on board, antigen testing that looks for proteins created by the COVID virus. Positive test results on antigen tests are 100% accurate. negative test results, it has a much higher negative rate, but the positives are positive. And the CDC and therefore the state are still not counting those test results as positives unless they are confirmed by what we call a molecular or PCR test, which is a waste of resources and is absolutely contributing to an undercount. And we don't even know the real numbers of that. So we definitely have more cases than we're counting right now because of that inaccurate means of counting positive test results. At the state level, we've struggled with counting deaths accurately. We have struggled with counting positive tests accurately and total number of tests. At one point, our positivity rate was artificially driven down because a third type of testing, antibody testing, was rolled in, and antibody tests in general are much less reliable and should never have been included. And in addition, my communities had local issues because we don't have clear guidance on how to count different types of numbers. So I'm in Hays County. Hays County tracks their data points completely different than Travis County next door. So folks will try to compare our hospitalization numbers or our active cases numbers, and it's not meaningful because we don't have clear guidance coming down from the state to help make sure these numbers have meaning.
And it seems like over and over again, things that should not be political, things that are just sort of the basic blocking and tackling of government are being politicized. And, you know, whether it's the president saying that the COVID-19 virus was a hoax, or suggesting that, hey, if we do less testing, there will be fewer cases, or overruling the scientists over at the CDC, pulling out of the WHO in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, the list goes on and on. I personally have just about exhausted my reservoir of outrage because it seems like it happens every single moment. And that cathartic experience is going to happen on October 13th when early voting starts, and I get to vote for Vice President Biden and against President Trump. Representative Retta Bowers, talk to us about October 13th. What's coming up? What can people do between now and the start of early vote to make sure that not only do we flip Texas for Joe Biden, but also flip the state house blue and make sure that everybody gets out to vote?
Absolutely. Hey, you know, the first thing is make a plan to vote. Make your plan to vote. Know, yes, that October 13th is coming. My family and I will be voting bright and early on October 13th. My daughter says she's going when the polls open. So I'm glad to hear that. But really, to help us flip the House, I'd have to say, vote down the ballot, vote all the way down, and vote for every Democrat you can. And I mean, you've got to make sure without straight ticket voting that we do vote down the ballot, make a plan to vote, tell as many friends and family to get there. We've got that extra week that thank goodness we do of early vote. And I know, just as Representative Zwingler and you know, that elections are won in early voting. So as many people that can go out as early as possible, because we know people are going to go out and vote in droves. And if you have your mail-in, you've requested a mail-in ballot, I think a lot of people have already gotten those, then go ahead and mail it in now. Get it in, make sure it gets there early enough. Early vote is October 13th through the 30th. And there's a couple weekends in there. There's people like Rideshare to Vote that will help you get people to the polls. But, don't wait until November 3rd. That's for sure. I mean, I like to say that when the totals come in at 7 p.m., you already know. We need to already know who the next president is at 7 p.m. And that's my hope. And I just hope that everybody's already thinking about their plan. And I know that people like yourself and Representative Zwingler, all of our colleagues are going to make sure we're educating voters to get out early as possible. Thank you.
No question, no truer words. Make sure you make that plan to vote as early as possible and stop saying that you're going to vote on November 3rd. Your vote will already be in and banked by then. The other thing that it does is it allows campaigns to focus on those lower propensity voters that may not have already come out to the polls. So make sure you get your vote in, get it banked early, and then work like heck to get other voters done. Representative Zwingler, you've got the last word. Talk to us about how excited you are to vote and how we're going to bring this home for Joe Biden.
I am so excited. You know, y'all, I organized the Electoral College demonstration at the Texas Capitol in 2016, where we begged our electors to vote for anyone not named Donald Trump. Now, unfortunately, most of them didn't listen to us. However, what was amazing is Texas was one of the later states to vote, and they couldn't call the Electoral College vote for Donald Trump until Texas voted, because our 38 electoral votes have been enough to deny Republicans the presidency my entire adult life. So y'all, we here in Texas alone can make the difference. So I don't want y'all to have any regrets on November 4th. Sign up to volunteer. You can go to texasdemocrats.org and help get folks to the polls so that we can turn Texas blue. Your vote matters here, and we need your help to get over the finish line and make Joe Biden our president.
State Representative Aaron Zwiener, State Representative Retta Bowers, thank you for being with us tonight. Rebecca, we're really, really grateful for everything the Biden campaign is doing and the historic investment in human capital that you're making in this state. Back to you.
Thank you, Chairman Anchia, for moderating that conversation. And thank you, Representative Bowers and Representative Zwiener. Hey, when you all get out and contact voters, you're not only helping Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, you're helping terrific House candidates. There is no way for us to flip the state House if we don't protect House Democrats, including Representative Bauer and Representative Zwiener, both of whom have some tough elections this year. So that's why, thank you for being here. Now next, we have a very special guest who wanted to deliver a message to us, Alyssa Milano.
Hello, it's Alyssa Milano, and this is a big night, and I'm so glad to be spending it with you, even if only virtually. Of course, I wish we could be together in person, but that can't happen, which is a reminder of what's at stake in this election. At a time when so many of our fellow Americans are struggling, mourning lost loved ones, looking for work, or fighting for justice in our communities, we must come together to build back better. Everything we care about, from our health to the economy, from climate change to racial justice, all of it is on the line, and there is only 35 days until the election. And across the country, millions of Americans are voting already, so we have no time to waste. And that is why tonight I need you to do 3 things. In fact, why don't you do them right now while we're waiting? First, text Vote Joe to 30330 to download our app, which will make it easier for you to volunteer on our campaign and help your friends and family members make a plan to vote. Second, go to joebiden.com/events to get involved in our weekend of action, which is taking place this Saturday and Sunday. And finally, make a plan for exactly when and where you're going to cast your ballot. Look, this race is going to be very close. Every vote is going to matter. And there's too much at stake for us to leave any of it to chance. As Joe says, this is more than an election. It's the battle for the soul of our nation. It's going to take everything we've got, but we have to do our part, and we have to do it together, and if we do, we will win. So text Vote Joe to 30330. Go to joebiden.com/events and make a plan to vote today. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you for encouraging us all to make a plan to vote. This is the most important election in our lifetime. And there is no one in the state of Texas who is doing more on voter protection than the Voter Protection Director for Texas Democrats, Rose Clouston.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. It is great to be with all of you this evening and appreciate everyone tuning in for our pre-debate show and for the debate tonight. I am really excited, as I know many of you are, for what's to come. But as everyone has talked about, this is going to be a close election in many ways. And so we need every single vote that we can get. And that is what our voter protection team is doing day in and day out, making sure that every Texan is able to register to vote and that we have the polling places that you need to be able to cast your ballot, and that every single eligible vote is counted. But we need your help because October 5th is the registration deadline. We need to make sure that every Texan is registered to vote at their current address by October 5th. So I need you. So what we have here is a website called registertexas.com, and Register Texas is your one-stop shop for voter registration information. Because Texas, as many other folks have said, makes it a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. We're still back in the 19th century, and you need to send in a paper voter registration form in order to register to vote or in order to update your voter registration. But Texas Democrats have made sure that it is as easy as possible for everybody. So to make sure that you are registered at your current address, you can go to registertexas.com and type in, go to verify my registration and put in your information and make sure that you're registered at your current address. Because we know that you can't wait to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, but we need you to be registered at your current address to do that. So go ahead and do that for yourself. Or if you do need to update your registration, you have 3 options. You can print out a voter registration application and fill it all out online. You'll print it out and sign it, put it in an envelope, throw a stamp on, and get it into your election office. You just need to get that in the mail by October 5th. And if you need to, we have some options there for you to find a place to print, like a UPS store or FedEx or something like that. So there are plenty of places you can go to get that done. But you can also register in person. You can go to your county voter registrar's office, and we have their addresses up here, or go to a pop-up voter registration site near you. We're going to have a lot of opportunities from October 3rd to 5th in a community near you where you would be able to go in person, fill out the form, they'll take it from you and be able to, and get it in time so that you're registered to vote. But we need to make sure that not just you're registered, but that all the people in your life that are ready to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are also registered to vote. So I need you all to do me a favor right now. Another little thing about the voter registration deadline, October 5th is my birthday. So I need you all to give me an early birthday present and help me register more people tonight. So go on your phone right now and text 3 friends. I know that you've been asked to help someone. I know that you've been asked to register to help someone move. Probably not this year, but maybe last year. If it's been since the last election and they've asked you to help them register they asked me to help them register to vote. If they ask you to help them move, please go ahead and text them now and say the voter registration deadline is coming up on October 5th. I know you moved recently. Have you updated your voter registration address? And send them to registertexas.com to check and get that process started. So I'm texting my friend Amanda, who moved to Texas recently and got to make sure that she is registered to vote and ready to go. Rebecca, who are you going to text and make sure that they're registered to vote at their current address? You're muted, Rebecca.
I just texted my aunt Grace, who lives in El Paso. She has not yet registered. She's a new citizen, and I just sent her a reminder, making sure she's registered.
Yes, I love it. How about you, Manny? Who are you texting?
So I just texted my dad. He's from the Rio Grande Valley, and he's actually moving up to Central Texas right now. And he's going to be re-registering in the next few days.
Yes, we got to get that in before October 5th. Thank you both so much. Well, thank you. And I hope all of you take this minute to please register to vote and get other folks to register to vote, because we can't do this without you, and we can't do this without those other folks in your life who are ready to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We're only going to do it if everyone is registered to vote and we get those ballots cast during early voting from October 13th to October 30th or on Election Day on November 3rd. Well, and we're here to support you. If you have any questions or any issues, our voter protection team is here to help you. And I'll put the number, the 844-TX-VOTES hotline number in the chat if there's any questions or you need any help. All right, back over to you, Rebecca. Thank you.
I'm thinking of all of you today across Texas. I know the rise in case numbers is causing fear and apprehension. People are frightened, and they're especially worried about their parents, their grandparents, and loved ones who are most at risk. This virus is tough, but Texas is tougher. We can stop the spread, but it's up to all of us to do it. We have to step up and do both the simple things and the hard things to keep our families and our neighbors safe. Wear a mask, wash your hands, stay home if you can, and socially distance when you go out. I want every single American to know, if you're sick, if you're struggling, if you're worried about how you're going to get through the day, I will not abandon you. We're all in this together. We'll fight this together. And together, we'll emerge from this stronger than we were before we began. I'm Joe Biden, and I
would suffer if their access to health care got taken away. Just today, we announced the release of Spanish language radio ads, where it is a young woman talking to her mother about the importance of registering to vote. And in a few minutes, you'll see our latest digital ad focused on Trump's comments calling veterans suckers and losers. We are the biggest battleground state, as our friends at the Texas Democratic Party have been saying for a long time. But the interesting thing, the exciting thing about 2020 is that we're all in this together. And Manny Garcia, right here, can talk to you about many other campaigns, all of this Democratic energy that's focused on getting Joe Biden and Kamala Harris 38 electoral votes and electing Democrats up and down the ballot. Manny.
Well, Rebecca, I'm excited to be here with you tonight, and thank you to all of you who are tuning in and giving your time to your party and to this campaign, learning about these issues, and having those tough conversations with your friends and your neighbors. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's about making sure that we have the conversations about the future of our state and the future of our country. And, you know, we say around the office that you can save Texas, you save the country, and you save the world. And it started off like a little joke inside of the office, but I think the reality is that our impact is huge, and we are realizing that now. And, you know, you're 9 seats away from flipping the Texas House, 22 within single digits. We saw some spectacular candidates earlier today. You know, you got 10 congressional districts within 10 points, more than any state in the country. A United States Senate race with MJ Hager ready to kick that bootlicker John Cornyn out of office. And the polling today shows a statistical tie with Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So it's going to take every single one of us coming together, working hard, having those tough conversations. And I'm really excited that, as you said, the presidential campaign has invested in Texas in a way that no one else has in a generation. So I'm very excited that the Texas Democratic Party and our coordinated campaign have over 150 staff right now. This is an unprecedented level and show of force that this state has not experienced before. We are coordinating with hundreds of campaigns across the state of Texas, 800 campaigns on our voter file, working on our data. Everybody collaborating on the voter protection work with Rose and making sure that people get the information that they need, going to mytexasvotes.com, calling and pushing our voter hotline so that people can get the information that they need. It's been a huge team effort to get to this point. But at the end of the day, the next couple weeks is what matters the most, right? And we all got to come together in the next couple weeks, have those real tough conversations, and make sure that we get Texas over the line. We've gotten this close. It's within our grasp. And we're very excited about seeing the debate tonight and hearing from our leader, hearing from the leader of our party, hearing from the leader who's going to be the leader of this country, and what we're going to do to make sure that Texans get a fair shot to get ahead.
You know, did you all know that there is no other state that has more congressional seats at play than right here in the state of Texas? So when you're making calls, when you're texting your friends, if you're telling people to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, we're also going to get to send more Texas Democrats to Congress. And guess what? In January, we are going to have a Democratic speaker of the Texas House. That doesn't just happen. It didn't happen overnight, and it's not going to happen if we don't get out there, continue to call, to text, to get organized. There are so many things at stake. Now, we saw the difference in just one cycle in the state house, we went from a larger Republican majority who was defunding public education, constant attacks on women's health, to suddenly, after 12 Democrats got elected in the state house in the last election, suddenly education became a priority again. So this isn't just about elections. This is about elections having consequences on real people. We are all seeing the consequences of living through Trump-created chaos over the last 4 years. And we're seeing the importance of getting a leader like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris elected who will tell us the truth and have a plan on COVID. So I mentioned earlier, we released a new digital ad on the Suckers and Losers comment, which is another reminder of what's at stake.
Suckers, 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 suckers. Losers, losers, losers.
You know, it's powerful when you see it in such stark black and white letters and what's been going on. A system that is just fundamentally not fair to people, where Donald Trump has been a liar and a cheater. And at the end of the day, it has consequences. When you see regular families working hard every single day to try to make ends meet right now in the middle of a pandemic, put food on the table, and the person in the White House is paying $750 in taxes while others pay thousands. It's fundamentally unfair. And, you know, Ted Cruz earlier this week said Texans weren't going to care about that. Well, I think he's just wrong. Texans are going to be pissed off about that. They're going to want to make a difference about that. They're going to want to talk to their friends and their neighbors about that, because they know that that's wrong. And in this state, it shouldn't happen. In this country, it shouldn't happen. And that if we all band together and we work hard, we'll be able to make a difference. We'll be able to fundamentally change this. And like Rebecca said, this is about our daily lives, our real impacts on what's happening. And if we win, if we flip the Texas House, if we win these congressional seats, if we win the United States Senate race, if we win the White House, the life of our family and our friends will be so much better, from healthcare to jobs and the economy, to immigrant rights, to voting rights, to women's rights. You go on and on and on. Every single one of us will have a better future if we're all going to put in, but we got to put in the hard work, right? Beto told us that we got to believe. And I think he showed us the pathway there in the past few years. And now we got to put in that really hard work to make sure we get over the line. So it's going to take a lot of organizing, Rebecca, right?
It's going to take a lot of organizing. Those were really hard to watch. It's a reminder that the president is out of touch with working families. My mom worked on her feet her whole life. She worked as a waitress in Denny's and then as a cashier at Home Depot. And it was really hard sometimes knowing how she was going to pay for healthcare. But all of these years, she's been paying more in taxes than Donald Trump. And yes, that was really hard to watch. That was infuriating, but it's a reminder of why we're here and the work that we're doing. We're a few minutes away from debate night, but do not tune out just yet, because we need you to take action. And if you're wondering, what can I do? How can I help? Find out from our organizing director, Terry Bermea. Terry.
Thank you, Manny. Thank you, Rebecca.
We are so excited, Texas, for tonight, and we know Vice President Biden is going to do a phenomenal job on the debate stage tonight. The Vice President and Senator Harris have been working hard every single day to ensure that they are reaching and connecting with as many voters as they possibly can, and we are doing the exact same thing here in Texas. Texas is the biggest battleground state, and every day our organizers and our incredible volunteers are making calls to Texas voters to ensure that they make their voices heard this November for Vice President Biden and Senator Harris and all of our incredible Texas Democrats. This is the most important election of our lifetime, and the time to take action is now. We cannot do this without you, and we have 35 days to leave it all out on the field and deliver our 38 electoral votes to Joe Biden, Senator Harris, to send MJ Hagar to the Senate, send more Texas Democrats to Congress, and flip the Texas House. So please sign up for a shift for our daily phone banks in the links we've shared with you and will share with you. And together, let's send a Texas-sized message to the country and to the world. Let's go do this. Let's win this, Texas.
Please welcome my husband, Joe Biden.
Former Vice President Joe Biden just released that announcement.
Joe Biden is now a 2020 presidential candidate.
Biden will enter this race as the front runner.
I know Joe. We know Joe. But most importantly, Joe knows us.
Candidates coalescing around Joe Biden.
His campaign made history.
Joe Biden has selected Kamala Harris as his running mate.
This is your campaign.
Now's the time to fight for what we believe in.
The 2020 presidential election is less than 2 months away.
The presidential race is tied.
This election is in no way predetermined, and it's going to be close. Yeah.
We have got to vote like our lives depend on it.